The fog clung to Bar Harbor like a jealous lover, thick and suffocating, as I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home. My bones ached from a 12-hour shift in the ER, stitching wounds, calming frantic parents, and dodging the hospital director's glares. All I wanted was a hot shower, a glass of cheap Merlot, and the creaky comfort of my old bed. But the moment my headlights swept across the house, my stomach dropped. The front windows were shattered, jagged glass glinting like teeth in the moonlight. Spray paint scarred the porch. Pay up. My pulse kicked into overdrive, the kind of adrenaline surge I'd felt saving a kid from a car wreck last week. This wasn't right. This wasn't home. Eleanor Harper. Ellie to anyone who knows me. But at 30, I'm still the girl who clawed her way out of this dysfunctional hellhole to become an ER doctor. Bar Harbor, Maine, with its postcard lighthouses and lobster shacks, hides its rot well. My family's rot is the worst kind, betrayal dressed up as love. I hadn't been back in 6 months, not since Grandpa Sam's Parkinson's diagnosis. Work kept me in Portland, but guilt dragged me here tonight. A 3-hour drive after a shift that left my scrub smelling of antiseptic and despair. I should have called first. I should have known. The air was damp, heavy with salt and pine as I stepped out of my beat-up Honda. My sneakers crunched on broken glass. The front door hung ajar, its lock splintered. My hand hovered over my phone. Call 911? No, not yet. This felt personal. I pushed the door open, my heart hammering loud enough to drown out the distant crash of waves against the cliffs. The living room was a war zone, furniture overturned, cushions slashed, family photos ripped from the walls. My high school valedictorian plaque lay cracked on the floor, Caleb's face grinning from a frame beside it, untouched. Of course, always Caleb. I moved to the kitchen, my breath shallow, scanning for clues. The fridge hummed softly, its light flickering when I opened it. Moldy bread, a jar of expired mustard, and a half-empty bottle of ketchup. No food for Grandpa Sam, who was supposed to be here. My chest tightened. Then I saw it, a post-it note stuck to the fridge door, the kind Mom used for grocery lists. Her looping handwriting hit me like a slap. Used your money for Caleb. Good luck, Mom and Dad. My knees buckled. I sank to the linoleum, the note crumpling in my fist. $50,000. My savings, scraped together from double shifts, skipped vacations, and ramen dinners meant to pay off my medical school loans. Gone, funneled to my 21-year-old brother, Caleb, whose drug habit was no secret, but whose ability to destroy my life always caught me off guard. They were in the Bahamas, Mom and Dad, probably sipping Mai Tais on a yacht, while I stood in the wreckage of their choices. I wanted to scream, to tear the house apart, but a faint sound stopped me. A cough, weak and raspy, from the dining room. "Grandpa?" My voice cracked as I stumbled to my feet. The dining room was dark, the table bare except for a single plate with a slice of moldy bread and a smear of peanut butter. Grandpa Sam Whitaker sat slumped in a chair, his weathered hands trembling worse than I'd ever seen. His Parkinson's had advanced, but this was different. His flannel shirt hung loose on his shrinking frame, his silver hair matted. The lighthouse keeper, who'd taught me to navigate by stars, looked like he hadn't eaten in days. "Ellie," he whispered, his voice gravelly but warm. "Didn't expect you till tomorrow." I rushed to his side, my doctor's instincts kicking in. His pulse was weak, his skin clammy. "Where's your medication? Why are you alone?" My eyes darted to the empty pill organizer on the counter. Stolen, I'd bet, by Caleb. "They left Tuesday," Sam said, his gaze dropping. "Margaret said they'd be back in a week. Caleb was supposed to check on me, but—" He trailed off, shame flickering in his eyes. "My mother, Margaret, and her husband, Richard. My parents had abandoned their own father to chase sunsets and cover Caleb's latest mess. Fury burned through me, but I swallowed it. Sam needed me now. "Hold on, I'm getting you food." I rummaged through the pantry, finding only stale crackers and a can of tuna. As I prepared a makeshift meal, my mind raced. The vandalism, the note, Sam's condition, it was all connected, but how? And where was Caleb? Last I heard, he was running with dealers, the kind who didn't negotiate debts with words. I handed Sam the plate, watching him struggle to hold the fork. His tremors were worse than 6 months ago, his independence eroding. "Ellie," he said between bites, "there's something else. Your mom, she took money from me too. 75,000. Said it was a loan for Richard's business, but I haven't seen a dime back." My jaw clenched. 75,000? From your retirement? Sam nodded, his eyes heavy with regret. That money was his safety net, meant for medical care, maybe assisted living. My parents had bled us both dry, and for what? To keep Caleb high and out of jail? I wanted to call them, to scream into their voicemail, but their phones were off. I'd tried on the drive up, getting only their smug, outgoing message, making memories in the Bahamas, leave a I helped Sam to the couch, wrapping a blanket around him. "We're fixing this," I promised, though I had no idea how. My savings were gone, my loans due in 3 weeks, $2,500, 0 cents a month. I couldn't afford without that money, and Sam couldn't stay here, not like this. But as I turned to grab my phone, something caught my eye. A tiny red light blinking in the corner of the living room, tucked behind a dusty lampshade, a camera. Small, professional, the kind you don't buy at Best Buy. Someone had been watching this house. Watching Sam? Maybe me. My skin crawled. I yanked the camera down, its lens staring at me like a cold, unblinking eye. Who planted it? Caleb's dealers, looking for collateral? My parents, paranoid about their secrets? Or someone else, tied to the vandalism and that spray-painted threat? I stuffed it into my bag, my mind spinning. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was dangerous. And the next morning, after a sleepless night on the couch, I drove Sam to the hospital for a checkup. My ER training kept me calm, but my nerves were frayed. The camera sat in my glove compartment, a silent accusation. At the hospital, Dr. Nathan Cole, my mentor and the director, cornered me in the hallway. His tailored suit and sharp cologne couldn't mask the disapproval in his eyes. "Ellie, you look like hell," he said, his tone clipped. "I hear you're dealing with family issues. Again. The board's watching you for that head trauma surgeon role. Resolve this mess by Friday, or I can't protect your promotion." I bit back a retort. Nathan had championed me, but his loyalty came with strings. "It's under control," I lied, my stomach twisting. Friday was 3 days away. If I lost that promotion, my career and my ability to support Sam would stall. I nodded curtly and hurried to Sam's exam room, where the neurologist confirmed my fears. His Parkinson's was progressing faster without consistent meds. He needed a caregiver, maybe a facility, soon. Back at the house, I called the bank, hoping for a miracle. The rep's voice was flat as she confirmed the worst. Margaret had drained my account over 9 months, forging my signature on every withdrawal. $50,000, funneled to Caleb's emergencies. I slammed the phone down, tears burning my eyes. I trusted Mom, let her manage that account since I was a teenager, believing her warnings about predatory banks. What a fool I'd been. I was about to call the police when my car alarm blared outside. I ran to the driveway, Sam hobbling behind me. My Honda's tires were slashed, the hood carved with a jagged message, "Stop digging." My breath caught. This wasn't random. Someone knew I was poking around, asking questions. But about what? The money? Caleb? Or something bigger, tied to that camera? I called Lila Bennett, Sam's neighbor and a retired journalist with a nose for trouble. She came over, her gray bob bouncing as she surveyed the damage. "Ellie, this isn't just kids," she said, her voice low. "Caleb's been hosting parties here, shady types, one looked like your boss, Dr. Cole, and last week I saw a black SUV circling the house, no plates." My pulse spiked. Dr. Cole? At Caleb's parties? It didn't add up. Nathan was a control freak, not a party-goer. "What else?" I pressed. Lila hesitated. "Your mom keeps Caleb's old sketchbooks locked in a safe in her office. I saw her sneaking them out once like they were state secrets. Might be worth a look." Sketchbooks? Caleb hadn't drawn since he was 15, back when he'd sketched superheroes who fixed broken worlds. Why would Mom hide them? I thanked Lila and promised to follow up, but my mind was on Caleb. He was out there, probably high, definitely in trouble. I had to find him before whoever slashed my tires did. That afternoon, I left Sam with Lila and drove to the derelict pier on the edge of town, a known drug spot. The fog was thicker here, the air sharp with decay and seaweed. My phone buzzed. An anonymous text with a photo of me sleeping in the ER lounge last week, captioned, "You're next." My hands shook as I deleted it, but the threat lingered. Someone was watching me, close enough to know my routine. I gripped the pepper spray in my pocket and kept moving. The pier was a skeleton of rusted metal and rotting wood, waves crashing below. A bartender at the nearby Rusty Anchor had tipped me off. Caleb was here last night, bragging about a big score with a dealer named Razor. I spotted a group of rough-looking guys near a crumbling warehouse, their eyes tracking me like predators. "Looking for Caleb Harper?" I called, my voice steadier than I felt. One guy, all tattoos and menace, smirked. "Ain't here, Doc, but Razor's looking for him. Kiddo's big." He stepped closer and I backed up, my heel catching on a loose board. The pier creaked ominously. "Tell Caleb his sister's asking," I said, turning away, but the guy grabbed my arm. "You're digging in the wrong dirt," he hissed. Before I could react, he shoved me hard toward the edge. The icy water loomed below, rocks jagged and unforgiving. I twisted, grabbing a rusted railing, my pepper spray clattering into the sea. He laughed and vanished into the fog as I hauled myself back, heart pounding. I was alive, but barely. This was no game. Back at Sam's, I found the house ransacked again. Drawers dumped, bookshelves toppled, and Sam's old lighthouse keeper logs, his pride and joy, gone. Whoever did this wasn't after cash. They wanted something specific. I checked Caleb's room, hoping for answers. Under his bed, I found an encrypted USB drive labeled Insurance. My hands trembled as I pocketed it. What had Caleb gotten into, and why was Mom hiding his sketchbook? That night, as Sam slept fitfully, I sat at the kitchen table, the USB burning a hole in my pocket. The camera, the slashed tires, the pier ambush, it all pointed to something bigger than Caleb's addiction. My parents' betrayal was the tip of the iceberg, and I was diving headfirst into waters I didn't understand. But I couldn't stop. Not for me, not for Sam, and maybe not even for Caleb, if there was still a piece of him worth saving. The fog outside thickened, swallowing the cliffs. Somewhere out there, Caleb was running, Razor was hunting, and my parents were laughing on a yacht, oblivious to the storm they'd unleashed. I didn't know who was watching me or what they wanted, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the scared girl who bailed out this family at 16. I was done being their doormat. Whatever came next, I'd face it head-on, even if it broke me. The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed like a swarm of angry wasps, each flicker grating against my raw nerves. I stood outside Caleb's ICU room, my scrubs wrinkled from 36 hours of chaos. the weight of the hidden camera and that cryptic USB drive burning in my pocket. Bar Harbor's salt-tinged air couldn't penetrate these sterile walls, but the stench of betrayal clung to me like damp fog. My brother Caleb was intubated, his chest rising and falling to the rhythm of a ventilator, a toxic cocktail of fentanyl, benzos, and Grandpa Sam's stolen Parkinson's meds, threatening to steal him forever. Sam, my rock, was down the hall, admitted after a fall that left his frail body bruised and his spirit battered. And me? I was Eleanor Harper. Ellie, a 30-year-old ER doctor teetering on the edge of losing everything. My career, my family, my sanity. Dr. Nathan Cole, the hospital director and my supposed mentor, caught me in the hallway, his polished shoes clicking like a predator's claws. His eyes, sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, dissected me. "Ellie, you're unraveling," he said, voice low, almost intimate. "I know about your family's financial troubles. The board's questioning your focus. Fix this or that trauma surgeon role is gone." His words landed like a scalpel, precise and cold. How did he know about my drained savings? The $50,000 0 cents my mother, Margaret, had siphoned to cover Caleb's drug debts? I forced a nod, my throat tight. "It's handled." I lied, but his smirk told me he saw through it. As he walked away, his cologne lingered, a cloying reminder of the power he held over my future. I slipped into Caleb's room, the beeping monitors a grim symphony. His face, pale and hollow, looked younger than his 21 years, like the kid who'd once drawn superheroes to fix our broken world. I checked his chart, my ER training grounding me, but my hands shook. He'd overdosed in a drug den surrounded by armed dealers I'd barely escaped. Using my skills, I'd stabilized him until paramedics arrived. But the memory of those men's eyes, cold, predatory, haunted me. They'd fled, but not before one hissed, "Razor's coming for you." Razor, the dealer Caleb owed, was a ghost with a reputation for blood. And now my apartment had been firebombed, a charred note warning, "Back off or Sam's next." I hadn't told Sam yet. His heart couldn't take it. My phone buzzed, snapping me back. Lila Bennett, Sam's neighbor and a retired journalist, had texted. "Richard's real estate firm is dirty. Syndicate ties. Caleb's in deep. Check his sketchbooks." My pulse spiked. Syndicate? Caleb wasn't just an addict. He was tangled in something far darker. Lila's warning echoed her earlier clue about Margaret locking Caleb's old sketchbooks in a safe. What was in them? And why had Dr. Cole been seen at Caleb's parties? I glanced at Caleb's chart again, noticing a late-night entry. Cole had checked it at 2 a.m. Why? He wasn't Caleb's doctor. A chill ran through me. Was Cole connected to the syndicate too? I stepped into the hall, needing air, when a crash echoed from Sam's room. I sprinted, my heart in my throat, and found him on the floor, his walker tipped over, a nurse struggling to help him up. "Ellie," he gasped, his voice weak. "I tried to get my pills. Caleb took 'em all." His Parkinson's tremors were violent, his face etched with pain. I lifted him back to bed, my arms burning, and checked his chart. No meds administered since yesterday, because Caleb had stolen them. My vision blurred with tears, but I swallowed them. Sam needed me strong. "Sam, why didn't you tell me how bad it's gotten?" I whispered, adjusting his pillow. His eyes, cloudy but fierce, met mine. "Didn't want to burden you, kid, but Margaret, she took $75,000 0 cents from my retirement, said it was for Richard's business, but I know it went to Caleb's dealers." His voice cracked. "I trusted her." I gripped his hand, his tremors vibrating through me. "We're fixing this. I'm getting power of attorney. Your house, your money, they won't touch it again." Sam nodded, but his gaze flickered to the door. like he sensed the storm coming. I did too. Margaret and Richard were due back from the Bahamas, and the confrontation would be brutal. That afternoon they arrived, a whirlwind of tanned arrogance. Margaret swept into the ICU waiting area, her floral sundress clashing with the sterile gloom, Richard trailing in a golf polo, his Rolex glinting. "Where's Caleb?" she demanded, not even looking at me. Her voice dripped with accusation, as if I'd orchestrated this nightmare. "Room 427, I said, my tone ice. "He's critical. Overdose. Your fault." The words slipped out, sharp and unfiltered. Margaret's eyes narrowed, but Richard stepped forward, his face red. "You let this happen, Ellie," he snapped. 3 days in charge and Caleb's in a coma? Typical. The injustice hit like a punch. They'd stolen my savings, abandoned Sam, and enabled Caleb's addiction, yet I was the villain? Before I could fire back, Sam's nurse called me. His condition was worsening. I left my parents fuming, their voices fading as I ran to his side. Sam's vitals were dropping, his blood pressure erratic from missed meds. I barked orders to the nurse, my ER instincts taking over, but inside I was fracturing. Sam was all I had left, the man who'd taught me to fix a carburetor and stand my ground. If I lost him, no, I wouldn't think it. As the nurse stabilized him, my phone buzzed again, a voicemail from an unknown number. I played it, my blood running cold. "You're digging too deep, Doc. Sam's house burns next." The voice was distorted, but the threat was clear. The firebombing wasn't a one-off. They were watching, waiting. I called Lila, my voice shaking. "I need everything you've got on Richard's firm." She hesitated, then said, "Ellie, it's worse than I thought. Richard's been meeting Razor. Photos from my old stakeouts. Check your email. And Cole? He's in my articles, linked to hospital contracts, laundering syndicate cash." My mind reeled. Dr. Cole, the man who held my career in his hands, was dirty? And Richard, my own father, was neck-deep with Razor's crew? I opened Lila's email, the grainy photos showing Richard shaking hands with a scarred man in a leather jacket. Razored. Another showed Cole at a gala, laughing with Richard. The pieces were falling together, but the puzzle was a minefield. I returned to Caleb's room, my head spinning, when the hospital's PA system crackled. Code blue, room 427. My heart stopped. Caleb. I sprinted, shoving past a startled orderly, and burst into his room. Nurses swarmed, a doctor barking orders as Caleb's monitors flatlined. His IV line dangled, tampered with, a syringe on the floor. Someone had injected something, poison, maybe. I dove in, starting chest compressions, my hands steady despite the panic clawing my chest. "Get me epinephrine," I shouted, my voice cutting through the chaos. The team moved fast, and after an agonizing minute, Caleb's pulse flickered back. He was alive, but barely. I stepped back, gasping, my scrubs soaked with sweat. The nurse bagged the syringe for evidence, but my eyes locked on the chart. Cole's 2 a.m. entry was gone, erased. He was covering his tracks. I called Officer Daniels, a local cop I'd met during a shift, and reported the IV tampering. "This is attempted murder," I said, my voice low, "and I think Dr. Nathan Cole's involved." Daniels promised to investigate, but his tone was cautious. Cole was a big name in Bar Harbor. Margaret and Richard stormed in, their faces a mix of fury and fear. "What did you do to him?" Margaret shrieked, her manicured nails digging into my arm. I yanked free, my temper snapping. "Me? You stole my $50,000, 0 cents, left Sam to starve, and funded Caleb's addiction until he nearly died." I thrust the bank statements at her, the ones showing her forged signatures, "and now someone's trying to kill him." "Who's Razor, Mom? What's Richard into?" Margaret's face paled, but she recovered, her voice venomous. "Caleb's sensitive, like my brother was. He doesn't need rehab, he needs us." You're just jealous, Ellie. Always have been. Her denial was a script, one I'd heard my whole life. Her brother, dead at 25 from an overdose, was her excuse for coddling Caleb, for pretending his addiction was sensitivity. I wanted to shake her, to scream that she was killing him, but Richard stepped between us. Enough, he said, his voice low. We borrowed your money, Ellie. We'll pay it back. Let's focus on Caleb. His eyes darted to the door, like he expected Razor to walk in. Borrowed? They'd stolen my future, and now they were dodging. The hospital chapel became our battleground, its stained glass windows casting eerie shadows. I faced them. Sam's power of attorney papers in my hand, notarized that morning. Sam's selling his cliffside cottage, I said, my voice steady. He's moving to assisted living in Boston, near my new job, and Caleb's going to seaside recovery, whether you like it or not. Margaret laughed, a brittle sound. You can't decide that. You're not his mother. But before I could respond, a weak voice cut through the tension. I'm deciding. Caleb, awake, propped up in his bed down the hall, had heard us. His eyes, bloodshot but clear, met mine. I'm an addict, Mom. I nearly died. I want seaside. I want help. His admission, raw and unfiltered, hit like a tidal wave. Margaret froze, her facade cracking. Richard's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Caleb, honey, Margaret started, her voice softening. You don't need strangers. We'll fix this at home. But Caleb shook his head, tears streaming. No, Mom, you paid Razor with Ellie's money. You kept me high to keep me quiet. I'm done. His words were a bombshell. Margaret's savings hadn't just covered his debts. They'd paid off syndicate demands. My parents weren't just enablers. They were complicit. Margaret's face crumpled, but she rallied, turning to Sam. Daddy, you can't sell the house. You're not thinking clearly. Sam, wheeled in by a nurse, straightened, his tremors secondary to his resolve. It's my house, Margaret, and Ellie's my proxy. You took $75,000 0 cents from me, left me with nothing. I'm done, too. His voice, though frail, carried a lighthouse keeper's authority, unyielding against the storm. The chapel door swung open and Officer Daniels entered, his notebook out. Miss Harper, we've got a problem. The syringe from Caleb's room tested positive for a lethal dose of insulin. We're opening an attempted murder case. My eyes flicked to Margaret and Richard, their panic palpable. Had they ordered it? Or was Cole tying up loose ends? As Daniels took statements, my phone buzzed. A text from Razor himself. $100,000 0 cents by Friday or you're all dead. I forwarded to Daniels, my hands steady despite the fear. I'd record every threat, build a case, and take it to the FBI. This wasn't just about my family anymore. It was about survival. That night, driving to Lila's to check on Sam, my car was run off the road by a black SUV. I swerved, tires screeching, and skidded into a ditch, the impact jarring my bones. The SUV sped off, but not before I saw the driver's silhouette. Tall, like Cole. I climbed out, bruised but alive, and pulled the gun I'd started carrying from my glove compartment. No more running. Lila's articles, delivered that morning, confirmed my suspicions. Cole had laundered syndicate money through hospital contracts, with Richard's firm as a front. Caleb's USB, cracked open by a tech friend, held emails between Richard and Razor detailing drug shipments. Caleb had kept it as leverage, a desperate bid to escape. I handed it all to Daniels, who escalated it to the FBI. The next day, the hospital board suspended me, citing ethical concerns tied to Richard's influence. I didn't care. I was done playing their game. Caleb signed in to Seaside Recovery, his eyes clearer than I'd seen in years. Sam's cottage went on the market, his assisted living spot secured, and when the FBI raided Richard's firm, arresting Cole and seizing assets, Margaret broke. She confessed to the theft, offering a repayment plan funded by their yacht. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Margaret and Richard disowned me, their final act of cowardice. But Caleb and Sam stood by me, our bond forged in truth, not lies. As I stood on Bar Harbor's cliffs, the fog lifting to reveal an endless sea, I felt free. My loans loomed, my career was uncertain, but I'd reclaimed my strength. The tides had turned, and I was ready to sail.